Hey there. In this video, we're going to be going over practice set number 2. This example comes from the Cambridge IELTS book number 8, passage number 3. So let's read the title here, telepathy. Okay, so we know this article is going to be about telepathy, and this is not going to be a very useful keyword for us because the whole article is going to be about telepathy, so we're going to keep seeing that word over and over again. Now over here, we have a table question in which we're going to be answering questions related to telepathy experiments. So all of these are related to experiments. So experiments may be another keyword that is going to be repetitive. All right, so a good way to go about answering this question set is by first paying attention to the heading, the titles of each one of these questions. So here it says name and date. So right here we have the names and the dates that are going to be related to our question. Those are going to be very good keywords for us to use, names and dates. They're going to be very easy for us to find. Next, we have to give some sort of a description related to this name and date, talk about the result and then the flaw. The result and the flaw, we're referring to experiments. The description of the experiment, when it was conducted, by whom it was conducted, what was the result of that experiment, and what were the flaws. So let's start off by first marking our keywords. So right here we have Ganzfeld and 1982. Right here we have Otto Ganzfeld and 1987. So when I go back to my reading passage, first I'm going to look for these keywords, and then around that area, I'm going to be looking for these other keywords. But I'm going to try to find these ones first. So here we have something about a person acting in a certain way, picked out or picking out, random selection, a random selection of 4. That's going to be easy to find. 4, that's another number, so that should be easy to find. And then something about identification. Here in the result, we have the word hit rates. That should also be easy for us to find. And then random guessing. In regard to flaws, we have the keyword positive, something that could be produced by certain factors. Down here we have key tasks, limit something, I'm not sure, limit the amount of something, that's probably going to be a noun. In carrying out the tests. Okay, and then here we have results were then subjected to, okay, the results were subjected to something. And then right here, what do we have? Different test results. Something about putting down to the fact that sample groups, okay, sample groups can be a keyword. Were not something. So let's go to our reading article now and let's look for these keywords, and then we can figure out the answers to each one of these other questions. Ganzfeld 1982, Otto Ganzfeld 1987. Here we go. I'm just scanning now. Here I see the word Ganzfeld. I see the word Ganzfeld, but I'm not going to mark it. Even though this is one of our keywords, I'm not going to mark it because I'm looking for the word Ganzfeld along with another keyword, which is 1982. So my answer is going to be where I find both pieces of the information together. So I'm not just looking for Ganzfeld, I'm looking for Ganzfeld studies carried out in 1982. So I want to see both of those keywords. So we're going to skip that Ganzfeld. Let's see if we can find it in another place where we can also find the number. Here it appears again, Ganzfeld. And here I have 1982. Okay, so this paragraph is going to be relevant to us, and especially where it mentions Ganzfeld around this area. So it mentions Ganzfeld studies here. It mentions hit rate. I remember that that was one of our keywords. What else? The word hit rates appears again over here. And then something about putting down. Remember, we had something about that. Put down. Here it says that different test results was put down. So we didn't mark it, but I remember that this was mentioned down here. So put down. All right, so we're going to be finding our answer somewhere around here. Check this out. It says 4. Remember, that was another one of our keywords, 4. And I see the word hit rate here. I also remember it mentioned something about identification. So this is a very relevant area. I think that we're going to be finding several of our answers around this area. So let's do this. Let's come down to our questions and let's read our question. Let's read number 31 and let's read it all the way up until number 33. So here it says, the description of this experiment involved a person acting as a dash who picked out one dash from a random selection of 4. So picked out one something, that's going to be a noun, from a random selection of 4, and a dash who then tried to identify it. Let's see if we can find something related to this. Now here it says, over here I also see random selection. I'm going to mark that because the keyword random selection did appear in one of our questions. Also the word identification. And then it mentions Ganzfeld here. It probably makes the most sense to start reading from over here, because all of this area is going to be relevant. We're going to find several of our answers down here. That's what I think based on all of these keywords that we have found around this area. So let's start reading from here. In early Ganzfeld experiments, the telepathy test involved identification of a picture chosen from a random selection of 4. There we go, the word 4 appears again. So we're going to find one of our answers over here. And I want to take you down to our question, and let's look at this question right here, number 32. So someone picked out one dash from a random selection of 4. Do you remember what the answer was? Picked out what from a random selection of 4? The correct answer is pictures. It says the test involved identification of a picture chosen from a random selection of 4. So that's going to be one of our answers, the word picture. I believe that was the answer to question number 32. So I'm going to write 32 right there. And then let's read on. Here it says, the idea was that a person acting as a sender. So I remember this was another one of our keywords. We had a question in which it talked about acting in a certain way. Acting as. So down here we have acting as. You see that? Acting as, right there. So we're probably going to find the answer to question number 31 in that line. So here it says, the idea was that a person acting as a sender would attempt to beam the image over to the receiver relaxing in the sealed room. Now, before I move on to answering this question, I want to point out one thing about question number 32. You'll notice that over here it talks about a picture, identifying a picture out of a random selection of 4. But then here it mentions the word image. Beam the image over. And then it mentions image over here as well. But particularly over here, because here it talks about image bank. But right here it's using image as a synonym for the word picture, right? So when it comes to the answer to question number 32, it's fine if you just put image or if you put picture. Both of them are going to be the correct answer. Now, let's continue reading this part over here because we found the answer to question number 31. It mentions that the idea was that a person acting as a sender, so one person is going to be the sender. The other person who the sender is sending to is the receiver who is receiving the image. So down here, question number 31 says, involved a person acting as someone who picked out one image, right? Picked out one image or one picture from a random selection of from four pictures and a someone, receiver, who then tried to identify it. The receiver tried to receive the image and identify it. So let's start to put down our answers. Here the correct answer is sender. Down here the correct answer is, you can put image or picture, doesn't matter. And then over here the correct answer is going to be a receiver. Alright, so now I have already answered all of my questions related to the description. I don't care about the result because there are no questions there, but I do care about the flaw. I want to find out what was the flaw with this experiment. So let's read the question. It says, positive results could be produced by factors such as dash or dash. So let's find out what the flaws were. So I'm going to be looking for the word flaw or a synonym language for the word flaw. So I'm expecting to find the answer to question number 33 down here, because remember, we found the answer to number 32 over here, and then the answer to number 31 was actually over here. So probably going to be around this area, because we are looking for questions 34 and 35. So we found 32 here, we found 31 and also 33 in this line, and 34 is probably going to come after this point. I'm assuming that these questions are going in order. So I'm looking for the word flaw or something related to flaw, some kind of a disadvantage. Here we go, flaw. So there is our keyword. Yeah, I don't see anything else. So probably around there. That's probably around where we're going to find our answer. So let's read this area. In fact, let's do this. Let's not read it right now because we are specifically looking for these keywords. Once we have found flaw, now it makes sense to look for these other keywords like positive results. Let's just look for the whole thing. Positive results and something about how they could be produced. So we are looking for positive results and something about produce. So let's just scan for positive. We have it right there. Positive results. And something about produced. Alright, so I don't see that over here, or maybe I've just missed it, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to find my answer somewhere around here. So I'm going to start reading this sentence from over here. So here we go. Just because chance had been ruled out as an explanation did not prove telepathy must exist. There were many other ways of getting positive results. So remember guys, we're still talking about flaws. This is a further explanation of what the flaw was. These ranged from sensory leakage, where clues about the pictures accidentally reach the receiver. So when something accidentally happens, that is a flaw or a mistake or some sort of a disadvantage. Alright, so here we have the flaws which result from sensory leakage, because this can give us positive results. In a wrong way, right? In a misleading way. It's giving us positive results when it shouldn't give those results. So it's saying that through sensory leakage, clues about the picture may be accidentally released, accidentally accessed by the receiver even when that is not intended. So that is the first flaw. I'm going to put that in green because I see that as our answer. And then over here it says to outright fraud. So here it's talking about the types of flaws, the way in which the experiment was flawed. It says that positive results could be produced by factors such as what? What could create these positive results? Well, it tells us that right here. Sensory leakage can create positive results, and so can outright fraud. So outright fraud is going to be our other answer. So those are going to be the answers for questions 34 and 35. Let's come down here and let's just put that in here. So right here we have, I'm going to put it outside because the line is too small. So sensory leakage. And then the next one, 35, is outright fraud. You don't have to put the word outright if you don't want to. So I'm going to put that in parentheses because even if you don't include the word outright, your answer would still be correct. Here it's fine if you give a one-word answer or a two-word answer because here you can write up to 3 words. So outright fraud or fraud, both of them are correct. Cool. So now let's move on down to our second study. It talks about Otto Gansfeld, 1987. Let's look for that first, and then once we've located this area, then we can look for these other keywords. I'm expecting to find that other keyword down here. Again, I'm assuming that these questions go in order. So I see the word Otto Gansfeld here, and I also see 1987. So that is a keyword. 1987 is our other keyword. Again, Otto Gansfeld here. Probably gonna find our answers in this paragraph. So now that I have located these main keywords and I've identified the paragraph, now it makes sense to go back down and start looking for these other keywords to really hone in, to really tune in to that spot where we're going to find our answer, to really hone in to our matching sentence. So now I'm going to be looking for keywords like key tasks, limit, different test results, put down, sample groups, and let's see if we can find any of that. So here is our paragraph, and here it mentions something about key tasks. That was one of our keywords. It talks about minimizing, and I remember that it talked about reducing in our question over here. It talks about minimizing over here, and it also mentions minimize right here. And this appears to me to be synonym language for limit. To minimize something, to restrict something, to limit something, those are keywords, or synonym language for the keywords. All right, I'm not going to be looking anymore. I'm pretty sure our answer is going to be in this paragraph. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to read this whole paragraph because I'm sure that we're going to find the answers to all of these questions in the same area. So let's read this question first. It says, dash were used for key tasks to limit the amount of dash, so that's going to be something, it's going to be a noun, amount of something in carrying out the tests. So something was used to limit something, okay? One thing was used to limit another thing. We just have to find out what that was. So let's start reading from over here. After this, many researchers switched to Otto Gansfeld tests, an automated variant of the technique which used computers to perform many of the key tasks such as random selection of images. By minimizing human involvement, the idea was to minimize the risk of flawed results. Do you see the answer? I already see it. So something was used to limit something else. What was used? Computers. Computers were used to limit what? Tells you right here. To minimize human involvement, to limit human involvement. So computers is one of our answers and human involvement is the other. Something that was used to perform key tasks was used to limit something else. So right here, number 36 is computers. And number 37 is human involvement. All right, now all we have to do is number 38, 39, and 40. Let's look at 38. It says the results were then subjected to a dash. So the results were subjected to something. So this was the first step. And then when we got the results, we did something to the results. I want to find out what did we do to the results once we already got the results. What did we do with them? So let's keep reading from over here. In 1987, results from hundreds of Autogansfeld tests were studied by Honerton in a meta-analysis, a statistical technique for finding the overall results from a set of studies. So what this sentence is saying is that they took the results of hundreds of Autogansfeld tests. They took hundreds of results and then they did something to the results. What did they do? Well, they put it through a meta-analysis. They did a study in which they looked at all of the results and they tried to find the overall results from these sets of this set of studies. So once they got the results, what did they do? They did a meta-analysis. The results were then subjected to a meta-analysis. Now let's read number 39. The dash between different test results was put down to the fact that sample groups were not dash, as with most Ganzfeld studies. So over here we're talking about how there was a difference in the test results. Perhaps the test results did not match, but there was something that caused a difference in the test results. So I want to find that area. So first, let's go ahead and mark this as one of our answers, meta-analysis, and let's keep reading on. Though less compelling than before, the outcome was still impressive. By the way, guys, I want to point something out. Remember that here, again, we are looking for a flaw. So before I start looking for these keywords, what should I do? I should first look for the main keyword, the overarching theme. What is the theme here? What is the classification? Well, the classification is that this is a flaw. So I'm looking now for a flaw in the second experiment. So I'm looking for the word flaw and I'm looking for other keywords related to flaw. So I want to find out what flaws or problems were there with this study. So I'm going to be looking for that keyword. So I'm going to start scanning now. Here it says lack of consistency. Now, lack of consistency can be a flaw, right? That's an example of a flaw. So let's see if we can find some more flaws. Here it says unlikely to be detected. That could be a flaw. Okay, so I have a feeling that it's going to be around here. It talks about lack of consistency and is still talking about that second experiment. So that's probably going to be the spot where we find the different flaws. So now I'm going to be looking for those other keywords from the question, keywords like Ganzfeld studies, hit rates. Let's see. Okay, we don't have the word hit rates. That was before, so we don't care about that anymore. Different test results and sample groups. Different test results, sample groups. Well, it talks about 40 people and it talks about a group. So, I mean, that is talking about a sample group. That is the group that did the study. Yeah, so we're probably going to find the answer somewhere around here. So let's start reading this. Let's start reading from over here. If, as current results suggest, telepathy produces hit rates only marginally above the 25% expected by chance, it's unlikely to be detected by a typical Ganzfeld study involving around 40 people. The group is just not big enough. Okay, so it's talking about the flaw with the study. It's saying that the group was simply not big enough. So the dash between different test results, what was different between test results? First, let's look at that. What was different between the different test results? It mentions that right here. Some parapsychologists remain disturbed by the lack of consistency. That is saying that there was too much difference in the test results. They weren't consistent. There was too much difference. So the correct answer for this one is lack of consistency. The lack of consistency between different test results was put down to the fact that sample groups were not. What was wrong with the sample groups? What was wrong with it? It mentions that over here. The group is just not big enough. They weren't big enough. So that's going to be our answer for that. And this one is going to be one of our other answers. Okay, let's just put that in green. And there we go. So the correct answer here for number 39 is lack of consistency. And then down here for number 40, the correct answer is were not big enough. Great. So those are all of the answers. And I hope that you now see how to answer the table question and what you have to do. They're pretty much like fill in the blank questions. A lot of the strategy is the same in that you have to identify the easy keywords, look for those keywords, and then find the matching sentence in the reading passage and answer your questions. Very important, always pay attention to the connecting words, because the connecting words are going to tell you what the correct answer is and what correct answer is going to be the right fit. Okay, it's like a jigsaw puzzle. The pieces have to fit together. One of the most useful things to do with the table question is to start scanning for information based on the easy keywords first, and then by these titles up here. Because that's going to classify information for you, and so in certain table questions, this information up here in the title can be really useful. So I hope that was helpful. In the next video, we're going to be going over the next type of question.